Every February 2nd, something pretty weird happens. We all turn our attention to this little town in Pennsylvania to watch a groundhog predict the weather. But this whole Groundhog Day thing, it's so much more than just a furry forecast. It's this incredible story that goes back thousands of years, packed with bizarre twists, ancient rituals, and, get this, some seriously dramatic rodent politics.
I mean, for a lot of us, the first thing that pops into your head is probably that amazing Bill Murray movie from 1993, right? That film took a kind of quirky local tradition and blasted it onto the world stage. It literally became shorthand for feeling stuck in a loop. It's a cultural touchstone that, just like The Observer said, really is the gift that keeps on giving.
Let's just pause for a second and really appreciate how delightfully absurd this whole thing is. We've got satellites, we've got supercomputers, we've got all this incredible weather tech, and yet we all stop what we're doing to ask a sleepy groundhog if he saw his shadow. It's so simple, right? If he sees it, 6 more weeks of winter. If he doesn't, spring is just around the corner. So that's the big question, isn't it? How did this old folk custom travel from ancient European festivals all the way to a massive party that brings in tens of thousands of people and millions of dollars to one small American town? Well, we're going to unpack that whole strange journey. Okay, so let's start with the modern-day spectacle. The whole show goes down at a place called Gobbler's Knob in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. And the star of the show is, of course, the world's most famous groundhog. And when I say it's a spectacle, I mean it. The town of Punxsutawney has, less than 6,000 residents. But on Groundhog Day, an average of over 20,000 people show up. They all gather in the freezing cold before dawn just to see what he has to say. And you know what all those people bring with them? A lot of money. The whole event pumps about $5 million into the local economy. It's a huge boost for the town, and it's all thanks to their celebrity woodchuck. Oh, and the story they've built around the star, Punxsutawney Phil, is just the best. He's apparently cared for by this group of guys in top hats called the Inner Circle. And the legend says he lives in a climate-controlled burrow, and every summer he drinks a secret elixir of life. That's supposedly why he's been making predictions since way back in 1887. So that's the modern legend. But how did this whole thing actually get started here in the States? Well, the American version of this holiday actually has a very specific birthday. The first official trip to Gobbler's Knob happened in 1887, all thanks to a local newspaper editor. A little over a decade later, the Groundhog Club was formed to make sure it happened every year. But let's be real, it was that 1993 movie that took it from a local curiosity and made it an international phenomenon. But here's the plot twist. This whole idea of an animal predicting the weather on February 2nd, it didn't actually start in America. Nope, it was imported from Europe. And believe it or not, it originally starred a completely different animal.
So back in the 17 and 1800s, German settlers, the Pennsylvania Dutch, brought their folklore with them. In Germany, the animal that predicted the weather was the badger, or dachs. But when they got to Pennsylvania, no badgers. So what did they do? They improvised. They just swapped in a similar animal that was everywhere, the groundhog. And this connection to Germany points to an even deeper history. We're talking way, way deeper. The German tradition itself has roots that stretch back thousands of years, tying it directly to ancient European festivals that were all about marking the change of seasons. See, the German Badger Day was tied to a Christian holiday called Candlemas, which is also on February 2nd. And just listen to this Old English rhyme, it's basically the exact same idea. If it's sunny on Candlemas, you're getting more winter. If it's cloudy, winter's on its way out. Sound familiar? But we can go deeper still. The true origin, the bedrock of this whole thing, seems to be the ancient Celtic festival of Imbolc. This was celebrated right around February 1st and 2nd, and it was what's called a cross-quarter day, the literal midpoint between the winter solstice and the spring equinox. It was a day all about celebrating the first signs of spring, a time of hope and, weather predictions. So we've traced this all the way from ancient Celtic rituals to German badgers to a groundhog in Pennsylvania. It's got an amazing history. But after all that, you have to ask the big question. How well does it actually work? I mean, how good is a groundhog at predicting the weather? So first, let's properly meet our forecaster. The groundhog, scientific name Marmota monax, is basically a giant squirrel. And it has some of the best nicknames out there. Woodchuck, land beaver, and my personal favorite, the whistle pig. So the legendary Phil, is he any good at his one job? Well, the data says
Not really. His predictions are only right about 40% of the time. That's literally worse than flipping a coin. But his New York rivals, Staten Island Chuck, is a whole other story. Chuck boasts an accuracy rate of over 80%.
And speaking of Staten Island Chuck, believe me when I tell you, his career has been way more dramatic than Phil's. His rise to fame is full of political drama and some actual controversy.
Okay, you can't make this stuff up. In 2009, Chuck bit the mayor of New York City, Michael Bloomberg. Then, in 2014, Mayor Bill de Blasio fumbled and dropped the groundhog, who was actually a stand-in named Charlotte, and she tragically died a week later. Yeah. After that, the zoo put in a new rule. Politicians are no longer allowed to touch the groundhog. Probably a good call. And this beautiful absurdity isn't just a U.S. thing. Canada's most famous groundhog, Wharton Willie, has an even funnier origin story. In 1956, a local guy was trying to get a reporter off his back, so he just threw his wife's fur hat in the snow, pretended it was a groundhog, and the Toronto Star actually ran a photo. And just like that, a legend was born. So this brings us all the way back to the beginning. If the forecasts are pretty bad, and the whole tradition is this beautiful, weird mix of history and silly stories, why do we still do it? What's the real point of Groundhog Day?
I think the answer is buried deep in those ancient roots. It was never really about the accuracy of the forecast. It's a reason to pause, to get together as a community, and to have a little fun in the face of the darkest, coldest part of the year. It's a tradition that connects all of us to a really simple, powerful idea, that no matter how long the winter feels, spring is coming. Hope is on the way. And really, what's a better forecast than that?